All right, good evening, Cal State San Marcos families. Thank you all for joining us this evening with many other events happening, baseball games, debates, etc. So we appreciate that you're joining us to learn a little bit more about helping and supporting your student and moving past the critical first 6 weeks of the semester. If you'll take a look at the screen right now and go ahead and rename yourself, that'll really help me in getting you checked in for tonight's session with us. You'll just go down to the bottom section of your screen where it says participants. Once you open the participants section, you'll see more, the rename, and then you can rename yourself with your student's name in parentheses right next door. If there's a couple of you, family joining you all, you can put a couple names, whatever you'd like to do of who's all on our Zoom call with us today. It's always fun to see where you all are zooming in from, especially our out-of-state friends, because we recognize that now in this virtual climate, it might be easier for you to join and participate in some of our family opportunities. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into our session real quick here. My name is Christiana Moen, and I'm the Director for New Student and Family Programs. I'll be here assisting and supporting in the chat as needed. And I also have with us Tyler Villamont, who's our Coordinator for New Student Programs, and he'll be assisting and supporting as well in the chat. And our fabulous main presenter today is the Miss Jenny Ruiz, our Associate Dean of Students, who's going to be talking to you a little bit more about how to support your student in moving past that critical first 6 weeks of the semester. So with that, Jenny, take it away. We'll switch out screens with you as well.
Sounds good. Good evening, everyone. I know it could be a little bit awkward being on Zoom. I think we're probably beyond that at this point because we've been doing this now for, 7 months. But if you're able to, I would love to see your faces. If not, don't even worry about it, but just wanted to put that out there because I think it definitely helps to have some level of engagement with folks if I can see you. So thank you for doing that. I can share now, yes? Okay. Give me a moment. Where is that screen? Okay.
And while Jenny's pulling that up, again, if you haven't renamed yourself, go ahead and do so. Sometimes when you're zooming in from a cell phone, it's a little bit more challenging. If that's the case, feel free to just send me a message privately with your name and your student's name. That'll be helpful.
Perfect. Thank you. So yeah, there's a lot happening during this hour this evening. So there is a debate. If there's any, there are some San Diegans on the group on the call. If you are a Padres fan, you're very excited about the postseason. They're not quite performing very well. So this may be the least stressful environment you can be in this evening. So hopefully this could be a good use of your time. And because of the small group of folks that we have, hopefully we can engage in discussion and really get some questions asked and advise folks and kind of talk through situations that you all have seen. But as Christiana said, my name is Jenny Ruiz and I am Associate Dean of Students at CSUSM. I have been with the campus for 14 years and have served in a variety of roles, including I had the privilege to actually oversee orientation for a number of years before I passed it on to the wonderful Christiana and now to Tyler. And it's been exciting to see how the campus has been working to support our students during their transition. I've been in my current role for about a little over 4 years, and I currently oversee the areas of care, career care network, and student conduct, and really anything in between those areas. So I'm excited to spend some time with you all this evening to talk about really the first 6 weeks of college. Those of us who've studied higher ed and college student development theory, which is legitimately a thing. So you can go ahead and look that up. A lot of research behind it, but this first 6 weeks is definitely a critical time to really kind of ensure your students are taking the right path to even persist to the next semester and ultimately graduate. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about why that is, what to expect kind of moving forward, how you can support your students, and how the campus is here to provide timely and impactful, hopefully, interventions. So session flow, I'm going to have you, because again, we have a small enough group, I'm going to ask folks if you are willing and able to do some quick introductions. And then we will spend some time checking in about how the first 6 weeks have been. So we're what, 5.5 weeks in now officially of the first semester. And I would just want to get an idea of what you all are seeing with your students and what they are experiencing. I'll then go into some information about the critical nature of this time frame and then identify tangible steps your students can take, as well as how you can help them with that, and anything that may arise during this time and beyond. And then lastly, we'll talk about resources and support available to you and your student as we move into the middle of the fall semester. It's kind of crazy. It's midterms time, which is unbelievable to me. So it is moving fast, yet sometimes it feels like we're kind of going slowly to whatever that finish line is. So introductions, I will kick off. I am a native San Diegan, born and raised. I'm actually from Mira Mesa. I grew up in Mira Mesa area. I now live in Escondido. I got my bachelor's degree at Sonoma State in sociology and my master's degree from University of San Diego in counseling with a specialization in college student development. And I've worked at an institution in New York, but have mainly been back in California in my higher ed career. But I've been working in higher education now for a little over 15 years. And I can tell you, the students have changed, the climate has changed, very different landscape, as I'm sure Christiana and even Tyler, who are a little bit closer to their grad programs, can probably attest to as well. So why don't we go, if folks are willing, to unmute yourselves and tell us a little bit about you and why you are here this evening. So
Jenny, you'll have to unmute them
Okay.
as you go along. So if you want to call on them and then unmute, that will help you out.
Okay, so Raina, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute if you want to introduce yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Raina, and I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and we've been out here in San Diego since 2006. We're a military family, and my son is a freshman, and so far I've only seen him focused on his homework, and I've really like for him to participate some way, somehow, with the campus a little bit more. I've asked him about the U hour, and it doesn't seem that that's in his radar at all. So that's where we are at the moment.
All right, thank you, Raina. It sounds like your volume is a little bit low, so let me just kind of repeat what you said, if that's okay. So it sounds like your son is really kind of focused very much on the academic piece, and you're wanting him to kind of engage in other ways and trying to introduce some ways to get involved, but it may not be on his radar right now. Does that sound right? Okay. My dad grew up in Brooklyn, so there you go.
All right.
A connection. I love it. Okay, Miss Nancy, I will go ahead and ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
Hello, good evening. My stepdaughter is a freshman at San Marcos, and so it has been a challenge, obviously, as a freshman to transition into higher education as on distance learning. And so one of the major challenges that I've seen is she's taking 15 credits, and even though her classes are scheduled to actually meet, some of them actually is a lot of asynchronous work. And so they're having to do a lot of independent study. And as a freshman, without having had prior knowledge of, coursework and how to balance your time and things like that, I kind of left her to her own devices for the first 4 weeks just to and it was, let's just say it was a massive fail. Mm. So, she is doing well. She's got 4 A's and now a B, but it was 2 B's and they were on the lower end, which is unlike her for grades. So that's been a little bit frustrating on our part because we really were hoping there would be more support, I guess, and really all intents and purposes hand-holding, and there hasn't been. So that, with everything else with San Marcos, we absolutely love. I mean, the customer service that we've received from every department in your university has been great, but this part has really kind of been a little bit of a misfire.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, there are many things that folks have done well, and there are many pain points that, and I'll kind of talk about our office is the Dean of Students office. We tend to be the kind of funnel of student concerns and issues, and we have the ability to kind of track those patterns and concerns and get them to the folks who are working directly with our faculty on how to best do the best mode of instruction. But hopefully our conversations today can help you to help her of like where she can go to get a bit more kind of intrusive advising and direct support. So thank you for sharing. In the chat, can somebody write who wants to go next? I don't want to necessarily call folks if you don't want to do it. Rochelle, where are you? Okay. Oh, here we go. There you go, Rochelle.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I have a freshman as well, and I have to go along with what Nancy said. She has 15 credits, has one class that is meeting, and she even had a psychology class that the teacher said, hold on, and then she ended up, I guess, leaving, and now finally she has a teacher. I think that was 2 or 3 weeks in. So it hasn't been fun, unfortunately. I mean, she's doing her homework, and we don't even know what the grades are. So there hasn't been much connection. So
okay, connection as in with the faculty, connection with what?
With the faculty, with
okay.
the teachers. So it's a tough transition. And I mean, I know what's going on as much as everybody else does, but it's just been tough.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Thank you for sharing that. And if this is just a space to share how you're feeling, then so be it as well. So probably have heard all of it, but the more we hear about it, just know that we take that seriously. And even if it's not within my wheelhouse, I have no problem sharing that to the decision makers and saying, here's what we're seeing. We need to work on fixing it. So, all right. Maggie, you are next. Where did you go? Maggie, there you are.
Hi, good evening. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Again, I'm with the other moms that have actually just spoken, reiterating some of the main problem has been connection. Just really my daughter's desperation to actually just meet other people. She went through a different challenge. 10 days into being at San Marcos on campus in the dorms, you know, she got COVID. So we've gone down that road, and you know, so that was an interesting part of being there. She's through that, thankfully, and truly her biggest challenge is just really feeling that they understand that San Marcos is truly up against the difficulties of keeping everybody safe. But as a student, they just don't understand how there's absolutely like this complete lockdown mentality of promoting connection, both socially for their emotional benefit. And so that I would love, I don't know how you get around it, but, you know, I applaud you all for everything you have done to try and keep our kids safe. I know everybody's facing so many challenges. It's a new sad norm for us all, and we hope that norm is going to change to a different norm as well. But I just really worry about their emotional welfare, because academically it's not going as well as you could expect it to go, but I'm more worried about what's going to happen to them just dropping out of college because they feel that their needs are not being met.
Yeah. Oh, Maggie, wow. Okay. First, glad your daughter's okay. And hopefully healthy and fully recovered. So that had to have been very, very scary. So, and yeah, I think the emotional piece and the connections are definitely on the forefront of everyone's mind about how to create really tangible and meaningful connections with students in light of all the difficult kind of barriers we have right now. So I appreciate that info. Okay, so we have Sue and then Laura will be up.
Okay, so my daughter is Rachel. She's first-time freshman, and I would just have to say that, I mean, although she understands why she has to be home, it's hard. She's been stuck in her bedroom doing school for the end of, her high school season, lost her high school season of softball. She was so looking forward to going to college and, playing and, so she doesn't even know yet really whether there's going to be a spring season as well as, going to classes. So it's just tough.
Yeah.
And, you understand why it has to happen and she gets why it has to happen, but it doesn't make it any easier.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. I think, I think there's the piece of like, everyone is in the same boat, but it's like we're all experiencing, but it looks different. And to think that everyone is experiencing it the same way, and just it's everyone's circumstances are different, how folks cope with it is different, and it's a difficult situation all around, and it's I've tried to even figure out how to kind of balance it, and my son is 4 and will not wear a mask, and so he hasn't really gone anywhere, and I'm like, this is 7 months. Like, how do we, it's tough, Sue. So hopefully we can gather some information to provide for you to support her. But if anything too, if the outcome of this evening can be you knowing myself and my office and you connecting directly with us to, brainstorm how we can support your student, then, then so be it. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have Laura will be next, and then Gary, and then Julie. So what did I say? This is not the most effective way of doing it. So thank you all for being patient with me. Laura.
Laura.
Hi there, I'm Laura. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We're from Truckee. My son is down there in the dorms, and he's having time, doesn't know anyone, went to school there, not knowing a soul, and just having a hard time meeting people. His roommate isn't a good match, and so he has plenty of time to study because there's nothing else to do. And that's the biggest challenge, I guess. Grades wise, hasn't figured out, I don't think, really how to check those, if there's somewhere online to do that, like in high school. But he's also supposed to run track. He's in a back brace. He feels like people look at him weird because he's in a back brace, which hopefully he's getting off on Monday. But yeah, it's been a challenge, mental wellness, and that, trying to figure out how to handle that. He's, ready to come home if track doesn't happen in the spring, and just virtually do school since CSU's already announced that for the spring.
Yeah, Laura. Truckee. I had a friend that actually was from Truckee that I went to college with, so I've been there. It's cool. But I'm sure that's tough being so far away from him, and vice versa. So, yeah, athletes right now too. We're just thinking about, it's a whole different level. I think, Sue, you said it was you that your daughter did softball. Yeah. So, I mean, this is folks' identities, right? And it's, if you don't have the time or the ability, not the time, if you're not able to compete, that's a big part of, who they are, right? So that's definitely challenging. Thank you for sharing, Laura. Okay, Gary, and then we will go ahead and get to Julie.
Yeah, hi. This is Gary Hewitt. My wife Celeste is here also listening. Our son is a freshman. He's living on campus. He's in software engineering. And, like, he has a good roommate. They don't, I mean, I think the kids are somewhat a little bit scared to go out. I mean, that's kind of what they were doing at their home, is kind of socially distancing and stuff like that. So, I think, we got some messages early on, like, in terms of the limiting interactions and things like that. And so he's been doing his work. I would say that the couple issues he's had is that he's taking computer science and math courses, but he's taking 2 GE courses, and I think he feels that there's those are taking a lot more time than he would have expected going into it. And maybe even a couple comments from professors saying, well, if this was in person, I would just have you guys work in groups for the rest of the class, but instead I want to have you, write something up or whatever. It seems like maybe some of the GEs are taking more work than he would have expected. And then, same thing that everyone else is saying in terms of, not really contacting with a lot of other students outside of the online classes. And, but we're going up there. We're in downtown San Diego. So we're able to go up and visit him. We kind of have him come out on the weekend to, and, go to dinner, somewhere outside or something up in the San Marcos area, so we get a chance to talk to him, check in with him every day and stuff. But so I would say right now, my 2 biggest issues is probably the workload, getting everything done, and then not having a lot of kind of activities during the week to be able to do.
Thank you, Gary, for sharing. Okay, I'm going to go to Julie, and I think that is the last person who's volunteered to speak, and that is fine. So we'll end with Julie. Julie, you are up. You've got to press the unmute button. Maybe she's not there. Okay, so if you want to introduce yourself and kind of share a little bit about similar to what folks have shared, feel free to write that in the chat. But thank you all so much for sharing. Those of you who shared, I know it's really difficult. This whole thing is very, very difficult and very stressful, and I'm not here to sugarcoat that and make it seem like everything is fine, because it's not. And so if anything, I want to assure you that there are folks that genuinely care, and the reason I've been on this campus for, it'll be 15 years is because I feel like the faculty and the staff genuinely care for the students. Sometimes, all these things that are out of our control obviously could impact possibly how that could come across. And so I appreciate you all being here. So as far as the next slide was going to be, how are you doing? I think I got a gauge. So if anybody, so thank you all. So some of the questions were, how are you? What have you observed? And what is something your student is kind of experiencing? If there's anything else you want to share in the chat that maybe you didn't get a chance to, feel free to put that in there. But I think it's also important to think about how you all are feeling and managing all of this, because you all are also dealing with what's happening around us with the pandemic and whatnot, in addition to worrying about your student. And so I can affirm that obviously can provide a lot for you all to manage as well. So just want to name that. Okay, so I wanted to kind of get into some details about what my office does and what we have seen so far this semester of what our students are experiencing. So in my role, I have the opportunity to work closely with a program called Cougar Care Network. And this is the campus's early support initiative. And it has been up and running since 2015. And what the purpose of this program is to get early referrals for students who may be exhibiting any sort of concern. So a great example is a faculty member notices a student and And at this point, I notice that a student has not logged in or has been attending and has been engaged, and all of a sudden there's a drop off or kind of a change in their performance or their attendance. That's kind of what we want to help to kind of trigger a referral, because we feel like there's an indication of something that's going on. And especially now, it's that much more important if a student's kind of missing or disengaged, for us to really do some intrusive outreach to them to say, hey, we noticed that you're not engaged, what's going on, and really checking in with them. So as you can see, so the numbers on the left of the screen are our overall referral numbers in the months of July, August, and September. So kind of the transition time going into the fall semester through September. So in 2019, 2020, we had about 418 referrals during that period of time. So what that means is that students referred themselves. We got referrals from faculty, we got referrals from staff, even family members, but that's how many students were referred during that period of time. In 2021, and obviously we just finished September, we're already at 480 referrals in those 3 months. So we're seeing it about 70 or so more compared to last year, which we're not surprised about because of the nature of what students are experiencing, and just our faculty, I think, being more in tune with the struggles that students are experiencing. So we are on a, we're ramping up. October tends to be the busiest month for the student concerns and referrals. So we'll be curious to see what those numbers look like. To give you a gauge, in the academic year 2019-2020, we had a total number of 1,591 referrals. So that was July 1 through June 30th. In 1819. In 1920, so that was last academic year, we saw a little over 3,000. So we doubled in referrals, and we were already on kind of an upward mobility in the fall, but spring, as you can imagine, once we went online, there were a number of challenges and things that came up that we needed to work with students on. So the pie chart on the right is a breakdown of what we've seen so far this semester. So in July, August, and September. So about the largest majority is financial barriers that we've seen. So 37% have been financial barriers. What that could mean is that students have applied for the Student Emergency Fund, which is a grant opportunity for students who are experiencing kind of circumstances that have caused an immediate need for some funding. So it can mean, car has broken down, needs repairs, for transportation, medical. It could be kind of anything that has come up that was unplanned that can help the student to pay those things off. So the students can get $350. So a majority of what those financial barrier cases were, thank you, Christiana, includes those referrals. So if a student applies for the Student Emergency Fund, they are required to meet with a member of our team, one of our case managers, to really work with them on, okay, what's going on, and then provide them with ongoing support. It's not just about, okay, here's the money and good luck. We want to provide them and equip them with the skills they need to get ongoing financial support, or where there's some other options to address the concerns that came up. The next highest is academic challenge. So I think this is definitely what, this is parallel to I think what a lot of you are sharing. It's concerns about faculty. It's concerns about not getting communication back from faculty, not receiving emails. We had a number of students, our first couple of days of the semester, it was merely students not knowing where to log in for their class. It was kind of that basic, the basic kind of navigating to get into the classroom. We've heard concerns around, and I think Gary mentioned this, about the amount of work is almost not a reasonable amount to expect of a student in one class. There's kind of a sense of, with asynchronous courses, which if you're not familiar with asynchronous and synchronous is students go on at particular times throughout the semester. It could be weekly, it could be a couple days a week, or it could be monthly. And then it's asynchronous is kind of, it's at your own pace. But what we found is that the asynchronous courses, there's a lot of work that's being assigned, which we think may be in a sense to make up for not having the time in class. We're not quite sure, but that's definitely a pattern that we're seeing. We're also seeing a concern around kind of turnaround times for assignments. And so really working and providing feedback to the faculty and to the colleges about, you know, is 24 hours a reasonable amount of time for a student to submit an assignment for an asynchronous class? So those are kind of all the things that we're seeing with academic challenges. And when a student comes to us, we will work with them about, okay, what are your needs? And we'll give them the tools they need to address it, and kind of the resolution kind of chain from the faculty member all the way up to the dean. And then what my role is that if there are patterns of things, I will connect with my colleagues directly in the college to express these in the hopes of just really advocating to say, what can we do to resolve this and help to support the students? And then the next largest is mental health concern. So probably not surprising, we're seeing a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, just kind of feelings of overwhelm, not quite knowing how to navigate all the difficult situations. And we also are seeing students who have been dealing with significant mental health concerns, and now this is just, the circumstances are just heightening that for them. So we see students from, you know, low-level anxiety to, unfortunately, we've seen some students who have had some pretty severe mental health breaks and have had to be hospitalized. And so we kind of see the gamut, and our case managers work with the students and their families to make sure that they get connected to support, communicate with faculty if needed, and so on. So the rest that you see, so attendance concerns, family issues, that could be things around losing a home. It could be conflict in the home. It could be maybe separation of parents. It could be anything kind of involving the home kind of situation. And then medical concern. We've had some students who obviously, as we've heard, have gotten COVID. It's been a pretty small number, at least based on what we know. But we do what we can to obviously communicate with faculty if needed, so students aren't missing what they need to do in their classes. So this kind of gives you an idea. We're seeing a pretty large gamut of concerns, but these are the referrals that we've been getting over the first 3 months, and I imagine it's just going to continue in the coming months. So if anybody has any questions about these while we're going, feel free to write them in the chat, and I can go ahead and address those. So want to get into why the first 6 weeks. So I think, and in my program in college student development, we had a lot of college student development theory and about what's really important for students and when and the time frame and all of that. And there's a lot of really old theories. As you can see, this theory is actually, and this quote is from 1989. So a lot has changed, and the populations have certainly changed. But it mentions here that a freshman's most critical transition period occurs during the first 2 to 6 weeks of their first semester. So it is a crucial time for students to get acclimated to college, get in kind of the groove and feel comfortable in their new environment, the need to navigate the transition from high school to college, find ways to get organized, meet new people, get involved on campus, find support they need. I mean, so many things are being thrown at them. If they're living on campus or living away, it could be homesickness, dealing with roommates for the first time, kind of establishing what the new routine is. And so it's really important that universities are aware of that and offer programming that can address these situations. So as students attempt to make necessary transitions and kind of navigate these, they're faced with some potentially significant challenges that accompany this. And as you all have mentioned, I mean, the baseline transition to college is stressful enough. And then you couple that and compound that with the pandemic, a feeling of isolation, not connecting, and those sorts of things, it makes it that much more challenging. And so we in our office and some other resources are very, very in tune to that, and are doing intentional work to outreach to students to intervene and make sure they're getting connected. So we want students to get a sense of feeling a bit settled and having a routine, and want them to make those connections. And we know that's that much more difficult right now. And so that's what we're here for, to kind of brainstorm and address those with you. So a few things, some tangible things, important steps for students during this time and beyond. So you will hear multiple times about connecting, and you all have mentioned this too. Just a connection to something or someone is critical. So we constantly heard in my graduate program that if a student does not make a connection to a person, a resource, a place on campus, they are much less likely to persist the next semester and then to graduate. So it could be connecting with one student in a class. It could be connecting with a faculty member, attending events, spending time in virtual spaces. A lot of our physical spaces on campus and centers are just having kind of open virtual time during the day, and students can just connect and be on Zoom or be on Teams and just hang out. They have breakout rooms where people are playing games and watching movies and those sorts of things. And it's a little bit weird because we're not physically there, but they're doing a great job of trying to replicate that community feeling. So the more engaged a student is and involved a student is, the more invested and motivated they're going to be to attend class. Be academically honest, because there's an investment and a pride in the campus, and then persist. We want your students to pay attention. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean, we know there are things, it's like dodgeball. There's so many things being thrown at them right now. And I have communicated exhaustively about, we need to really coordinate the amount of communication that's going to students, because it's very hard to kind of wade through what's important and what's not, right? But we really want students to be resourceful. They need to read their core syllabus. And if there are things that they're not understanding in the syllabus that they need clarity on, they need to ask, right? Majority of what they need to be successful is already in the syllabus, is already in what faculty have emailed to them. But then it goes to the next point. If it's not and there's clarity needed, they need to ask for that help. The campus sends out weekly emails. Resources send out emails. If they have followed any sort of departments or kind of listservs, they'll be getting information about events and ways to connect and whatnot. So as far as that goes, it's just paying attention to the things that are coming through. So, maybe it's just setting aside a particular time each night to look at all the emails that came through that day, versus just continuing to look on your phone, and then things kind of get buried. So, and then to kind of sort them based on topic. Because if your student gets financial aid, there's going to be financial aid information coming through email. There's going to be information about registration. So all of those things are really important to stay in touch with and stay in tune with. And so coming up with a process and an idea to help them to organize that. Once the communication is provided, the student technically is responsible for knowing the information and is accountable to it. And so I know I get emails, and a lot of emails, and Tyler has actually been a victim of this. He's emailed me things before, and then I'm like, did you send this to me? He's like, yep, I sent that to you 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, dang it. So it's having to go back and realizing that a lot of the information that we need has been sent to us. It's just, how do we organize that effectively to keep them from not getting too buried. And then lastly, it's asking for help. I know that can be really tough, but we really don't want students to be suffering in silence. For me, if we're not getting a lot of referrals, if we're not getting a lot of students reaching out to us, that to me does not mean that folks are good. It means to me that they don't know where to go. They don't, they're not asking those questions. And so we want to be busy because we want students to be reaching out to us and asking for help. What it leads to by not asking for help and kind of asking for clarity, it could, you know, lead to a sense of isolation, lack of motivation, confusion, potentially academic integrity issues if students aren't actively asking their faculty for clarity on assignments and what they're able to use. That could lead to those situations. And if your student does not know the answer, you know, help them be resourceful, but if they still can't find it, that's where our office comes in. We're really a first stop shop. And if your student doesn't know where to begin, doesn't know where to start, can't even begin to formulate the help they need, they're just feeling like there's something that needs to happen and there's a kind of a barrier to success, encourage them to call our office, email our office. We have a virtual front desk on Teams. They can ask a question and we will work with them to get them to where they need to go and do that warm handoff to make sure that they are connected appropriately. Okay, I'm seeing a question. So from Laura, are there any opportunities for students living on campus to connect outside or virtual type settings, outside Zoom, safely with masks, 6 feet distant outside? Laura, yeah, I think the housing and residence life team are definitely trying to be creative with how they can do that. Unfortunately, a lot of what we're doing is bound by county guidance, and we have to follow that. But I think as soon as the campus can do something that is in person and physically connecting with folks, they're going to go ahead and do that because we know that is a key piece of those connections. So, and as Christiana said, yeah, the one kind of tangible kind of physical space that students can go right now where there may be other students there is the computer lab, where they can feel like they're really on campus and can work with some other folks, obviously within distance. So any other questions about these 3 areas? Okay. So where do you all, I see a chat, let me see. Understood, yeah. Thanks, Laura. What's really cool, actually, the Center for Arts in Escondido, so anybody who's from the area, they're actually hosting, I think it's monthly, they're hosting drive-in movies on campus. And so if students want to do that, you know, obviously there's guidelines and whatnot, but that's something tangible to do on campus that's not just virtual. So we're also looking at ways to partner with the community as well to have that happen. So Christiana, maybe you could find that link for the Center for the Arts in Escondido about some of those things that they're doing. That would be great. Okay, so where do you come in? So I first want to acknowledge we have a high percentage of first-generation students at Cal State San Marcos. So what that means is that one or both parents or family members did not attend college or did not graduate from college. So that means a lot of times families are navigating this for the first time with their student, and that's okay. And we acknowledge that. So we kind of liken the first semester of a student's time in college as a tandem bicycle. So you may be used to kind of driving and steering things, but now they're kind of in that steering seat, but you can still be there to support them and kind of keep them going and keep them moving forward. So what can you do to really help your student with these steps that we discussed? So what I would encourage you to do, just check in. How often are you checking in with your student? And it's not necessarily about, it's taking the time, whether it's weekly, to kind of sit down and say, okay, how are your classes going? What do you need? How can I help you? So I know it's tough, but try to stay away from, have you turned in all your assignments? Have you been doing this? Because you also don't want to get them on kind of a defense, right? So kind of keeping it open. how, how are you communicating with your faculty, and kind of having those open-ended questions, and also kind of talking through, what is one thing that they've done to connect on campus during the week. So kind of having it be that broad check-in without kind of leading them to be like, are you doing all your homework? And kind of having it be this oversight piece. Obviously, as parents and family, you'll do what you need to do with that, but maybe having a weekly time, whether it's a phone call or FaceTime or just in the living room, to do that check-in and kind of that, touch base, say, hey, what's going on? How's the week been? What can we do to look forward to the next week? And how can I help you? Really helping them to problem solve. So how do you respond when your student comes to you with an issue? What's your initial indication and your initial feeling about what your role is? So I think really we want them to be able to learn how to advocate for themselves. We know that comes with time, but we see a lot of times the students lacking the confidence to advocate or to take a first step to outreach for help and support.
Is this your mom? The ornament?
I have a 4-year-old who's just entered with my monster. Yes, this is a monster we made last night.
Is that your monster?
It's Tio-Tay-Tay's.
No, it's yours.
Okay, honey. I love you. Okay, so so as far as, it's sitting with them and kind of talking through what the issue is. Okay, what's happened? What's the impact? And kind of, talk through it, right? And kind of fighting the urge to jump in and fix it. Because if you jump in and fix it for them, what it's going to do is help them to kind of stay on the sidelines and not to necessarily take that step to help to resolve it themselves. It doesn't mean you can't sit with them, coach them, help them to kind of figure out the questions to ask and whatnot, but think about it. We're trying to equip them for the future and to be able to really navigate difficult situations that come up. Help them identify what they need. So narrow down the issue and then brainstorm solutions and pathways. So for instance, student comes to you with a concern, some of the things that you all have mentioned. My faculty member is just not getting back to me. They're not emailing me back. I'm having a lot of concerns. Okay, so first question is, when did you email them? Because bless our students, there are times when they email somebody in the morning, and if they haven't gotten back to them by noon, that kind of gets them in, kind of gets them spinning. And so what we've encouraged our faculty to do is to let their students know what the time frame they can expect to respond is, to help students to know that. But if a faculty member has not gotten back to them within a reasonable amount of time, there's a few options. So they can definitely come to our office, and Gary, we'll post our information if we haven't yet. But as a first stop shop, coming to us and saying, I don't know how to get a hold of my faculty. Okay, let's kind of talk through this. What are some strategies you can take? What information do you need? And then if needed, if there's really a concern, it's who are the next steps to go to. So there's a department chair, there's an associate dean in the college, there's a dean in the college. So we will provide that information on how to kind of navigate that. What we don't want to have happen is that family, mom, dad, aunt, uncle email the faculty and say, why aren't you getting back to my student? We don't want that to be the first step, because the faculty member can't really talk to you anyways. So we want to be able to help them to coach on how to, Layla, where can I find the FERPA form? I love it. We'll let you know that. But just kind of navigate and be like, okay, what's your issue? Narrow it down, brainstorm the solutions and pathways, identify where they can go to start for some help, okay? And then really encouraging them to reach out, empower them to be the one to make the call, send the message on Teams, visit office hours. That's something else that we do in our office is I have helped students draft a number of emails to send to their faculty. There are times that students will send me, if they're upset with their faculty member or there's a conflict, I asked them, I said, send me the email first and I'll kind of tweak it a bit to say, okay, how do we better present that in a way that's sounds a bit more civil and respectful, and just kind of coaching them through that process, and really to specifically ask for what they need, and identify where the gap is, and asking them for specific support. So, you know, sit with them again to make a phone call, be next to them, that's fine. But really trying not to be that person who makes the first call, sending the message, because without a FERPA form, we are limited to how much information that we can share. However, even if there is a FERPA release, especially in our office, we still want to keep the student at the center of the experience. And so I couldn't tell you how many times I've gotten a call from mom, dad saying, don't tell my student that I called you. And I'm like, that puts us in a tough situation, because our students are who we're our primary folks that we're serving, right? And so the FERPA releases should not be seen as a, you know, straight shot to get any information and take care of things for. It's another tool to use to help to support your students and to guide them in the direction they need. All that being said, I want to share, if there's a significant concern about your student's health or safety, please call. There's no reason why you can't call us for that. If there's anything that we can do to help as far as a health and safety concern, and you can always call us just to kind of ask for help, to brainstorm, you know, have those conversations, because we're definitely here to help. We just really we encourage your student to be the first one to call and to have those conversations, because that's who we need to really work with to resolve whatever the concern is. Okay, any questions about these? Thank you, Tyler. I did see a question, where was it? It was all the way up here, about, yeah, grades. So here's the thing about grades. Faculty may or may not post grades on a frequent basis, and there's no requirement for them to do so. I would say the best way for your student to know the standing of their class is to email their faculty and say, can you let me know what my current grade is? There are some faculty who do a really good job, and they make a point to post grades on a consistent basis. There are unfortunately those that, based on the type of class and whatnot, the student may not know their grade until the end of the semester. So I think the best way to address that is, if your student's concerned or curious about their grade, to reach out to their faculty directly to ask them that question, and to document that if they're not getting the information back they're requesting. Okay. So where does the campus come in? So these are the things that we're doing to kind of intervene, to address, to advise, to guide your students. So as I mentioned, Cougar Care Network. So Christiana put our information in the chat. CCN falls under the Dean of Students office area. So if you call the Dean of Students office, you'll be connected to CCN. But again, we get questions from, how do I find this link, all the way to, I have a medical issue, I need to withdraw for the semester. So we get a whole sort of, you know, we get the gamut of issues that we can help students to navigate. And what you can expect for your student if they're connected with our office is a caring, warm individual who's going to sit down and now via Zoom or phone, depending on their preference, to really assess what their primary needs are and connect them with on-campus and off-campus resources as needed. Okay. The case managers in our office, they're all social workers by trade. So our care manager, who's our senior case manager and oversees the program, she has an MSW and she's worked in social work for over 25 years. And so she has worked with students on a variety of challenges that have had the potential of really disrupting their education. And we did what we can to get them back on track, and it's been wonderful to see. And we have some interns in the Master of Social Work program who are working with us, and other case management folks as well. So we have a really great team equipped with to work with students on a variety of challenges that pop up. Another initiative that we have is called Checking the Pulse, and this initiative is specifically geared toward first term, first year students. So who your students are. So we, this is going into our second year doing this. We started it last fall, and the main purpose of checking the pulse is to work towards preventing students from being placed on academic probation after their first semester, and ultimately to persist to the next semester and persist towards graduation. So what Checking the Pulse is it's a campaign that we do outreach to specific faculty in high freshman enrolled classes. So specifically, if your student is in GEL, so this is our first year seminar class, kind of our University 101 class, or GEO 102, which is oral communication, or Philosophy 110, which is an entry general ed course for philosophy. Between those three courses, that makes up of 95% of our first-time freshmen are enrolled in that group of classes. So it kind of captures a good number of our first-year students. So what we do is we outreach to these faculty at key points in the semester to say, we want you to do a good scan of your roster and identify that if you've not seen this student, if you've not gotten adequate assignments from a student, anything that could be an indication that a student is not engaged, not attending, we want them to submit a referral, so then we can go ahead and do that intrusive outreach for the student and say, hey, your faculty shared this with us, we see that you haven't been in class for this long, what's going on? And then get an idea of what's happening so we can connect them with resources. Most times it's something deeper than just attendance, and that's why it's really important for us to make those connections early on. And then lastly, the campus-wide coaching programs. So, and there's a few coaching programs and other initiatives. So there is a first-time freshman coaching program. My understanding, I'm not quite sure of their time frame, but if students are not in a specialized program such as educational opportunity program, A Scholar Services, if you have questions about what that would entail, let us know. Then a coach should be reaching out to your student. I think this feedback is very important, and we'll definitely send that up to kind of get an idea of what the time frame is going to be. But the purpose of the coach, again, is doing that ongoing outreach to the student, to not wait for the students to make the outreach themselves. We also have something called a Cougar Bot, and that is a texting service. And every once in a while, the Cougar Bot will just send kind of check-ins to say, hey, how are you doing? And based on the response, we'll provide information about resources to connect students to what is available on campus. Okay. I think we've already kind of talked through some of these, but I want to open it up to, actually, let me finish this last slide and then we'll open it up for questions, concerns, comments, etc. Because I'd love to continue to hear from you all. So kind of to wrap up, we have a lot going on in the world right now. There's a lot happening. And the university, as you can imagine, is a microcosm of society. And so we really encourage students to take advantage of resources, not only to get involved, but to be involved, but engage civically, to engage in civil discourse, navigate difficult situations, etc. So if your students are old enough and are able to vote, there's a lot of great information and resources to encourage them to do so. Obviously nonpartisan, it's a way to help them to become civically engaged and to exercise that right and that privilege that they have. We have programs around civility and engaging in conversations in a respectful manner, even if you're not in agreement with the person that you're talking with. So our goal obviously is our students to graduate and to learn their academic program and then go on and do wonderful things. But while we have them here, we also want them to hone in on skills that are going to help them to be as whole of people as possible. So going back to college student development, there is one theory, and it's called the Chickering's 7 vectors of student development. And these following areas really are what we hope for students. We hope that they can develop competence, and that could be in whatever, it could be the content of the courses, but develop general competence with whatever they're working towards. Helping them to manage their emotions. We really want our students to be able to recognize, okay, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling worked up right now. How do I manage that and not lash out and go ask for the help that I need? Help them to move through autonomy toward interdependence. So working through, okay, being independent, but also working with others toward a common goal is really important. Developing mature interpersonal relationships and what that looks like. It could be friendships, it could be professional, romantic, it could be with classmates, but how do you interact with people who are different than yourself, and having mature and productive conversations and engagement with folks. Establishing identity, so who are they? What do they believe? What are their values? What are their ethics? And kind of getting that intrinsic, sense of who they are, and helping that really to drive what their purpose is, which the next two is developing purpose. Whatever their purpose is for being at CSUSM, identifying that. There should be hopefully an end goal. Not necessarily a career per se, but why are they in college? Why did they choose to start college right now? And kind of going through what their purpose really is. And then lastly, developing integrity. So these are a lot, but hopefully through the variety of things that we offer, we want to be able to get students to that point, and to be able to be, again, whole and respectful, responsible, contributing members of society. Okay, so let me go ahead and open it up for questions. And we have the hand raising feature, right, Christiana?
Sorry, I'm nodding my head. Yes, we do.
Sorry. Look, Layla raised her hand. Okay, so I do want to, let's think about towards what do you need? What does your student need? Obviously, we're very happy to take feedback. Please give it to us. We will get that to where that needs to go. But I want to be sensitive to let's try to keep it within kind of the topic and how we can move forward and really get your students the support they need. So.
And Jenny, I'm going to go ahead and pause or end our recording, and Tyler, your recording as well, if you'll do the same.